Welcome to Bringing Dreams and Miracles Together podcast. My name is Staci Swiderski, CEO and owner of Family Source Consultants. Today, we are joined by Dr. Melvin Thornton from Global Fertility and our host, Chris Gao, Client Development Advisor here at Family Source. And together, they dive into the important topics for LGBTQ plus intended parents, including egg donation, surrogacy, fertility centers, and navigating the journey as HIV positive intended parents. This episode is a must listen for anyone seeking expert guidance on inclusive and diverse paths to parenthood.
Welcome to Family Source Consultants podcast. My name is Chris Gao. I'm the Client Development Advisor at Family Source Consultants, and I'll be our host today. In this episode, we'll focus on the medical aspects of surrogacy and egg donation for LGBTQ plus intended parents. And we have the honor of having a very special guest joining us today, Dr. Melvin Thornton from Global Fertility and Genetics. Hi, Dr. Thornton. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you for having me. Really appreciate it.
The pleasure is ours, and we're so happy you're able to join us today. So before we jump into the content, can you, just spend a minute introducing yourself and Global Fertility and Genetics to us?
I sure can. So first of all, I go by Dr. T. So if you ever see me, call me Dr. T, please. I love it. It's more personable and make people feel comfortable. So I'm always Dr. T.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
we're Global Fertility and Genetics, and we're located right in the heart of Manhattan, right on Park Avenue. And we're a full service IVF center in New York City. We focus on third party reproduction, which means we focus on egg donation, surrogacy, sperm donation for all types of clients. And one of the particular interests that we do have here at Global is for the LGBTQ plus community. So I'm looking forward to sharing information with you and do what I can to help those out there start their journey or have questions about their journey, answer questions for them.
Wonderful, wonderful. We're so happy you're here to share your expertise and experience with us. I have a list of questions that we received from a lot of LGBTQ intended parents, and I wanted to take this opportunity to address them. One of the most commonly asked questions is about fresh versus frozen egg donors. A lot of parents will just ask, "Oh, should I go with a fresh donor or a frozen donor?" I Obviously there are so many factors to consider. Fresh donor is going to take a bit longer than frozen eggs, and frozen eggs are just simpler. You can purchase them from an egg bank and have them shipped to the clinic. However, cost is also a factor. Some insurance plans will cover fresh donors, but other benefit plans like Progeny may only cover frozen donors. But today I wanted to leave the timeline and financial factors aside. Just medically speaking, do you have a recommendation for LGBTQ plus intended parents if, fresh donors or frozen donors work better?
Yeah, that's a very good question. It's a question I get every day myself. Should I use
Mm-hmm.
fresh eggs or frozen eggs? The number one thing to remember is that success rates are the same with a fresh egg or a frozen egg. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
As far as when clients ask me what's best for them, I always go back to how are we going to build your family? What is your long term goal? And if someone comes to me and they say, you know what, I'm looking to have one child, then I would suggest that they consider using the frozen eggs. Now, the reason why is because egg banks will give you eggs in a certain allotment, usually the allotment of six.
Right.
And most of these egg banks will guarantee what's called a blastocyst or one embryo available for transfer.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason for this is because in nature, it takes about 4 to 5 good eggs to make one healthy embryo. So someone's
Mm-hmm.
coming in and said, I'm looking for just one baby. I'll be really happy. That's it. I would say frozen eggs are a better option because you don't have
Mm-hmm.
to worry about frozen embryos being left over and things of that nature. Now, someone
Right.
comes in and I have a same-sex male couple or someone says, yeah, I like to have two, maybe three children. Now we're looking
Mm-hmm.
at fresh eggs because you want to have more embryos to work, more eggs to work with, have more embryos, particularly if you're a gay couple, you're doing a 50-50 sperm split.
Right.
But there is a thought out there that frozen eggs aren't as good as fresh. The answer is their success rates are the same. It just depends upon how many children you're looking to have to determine should you use fresh versus frozen.
I see. Okay, well, that is very, very helpful. So, thank you for sharing that with us. And, obviously, it is the intended parent's decision and choice, but depending on whether you're trying to achieve, you know, fresh or frozen fresh may be a better option for certain parents who only want to have one child. I'm sorry, frozen may be a better option for certain parents who only want to have one child. Versus fresh may be better for parents who want to have more children just because, you are starting with more eggs in the first place, right?
Yeah, I mean, this one other thing to add is that now that's not in every case. I mean, some people can have six frozen eggs and get three or four blastocysts. So, but rule of thumb is that most of these egg banks will guarantee at least one blastocyst. And the one thing that's key to remember is that for couples who are interested in looking at the sex of the embryo,
That's
the
right.
egg banks do not guarantee a normal blastocyst, which is disheartening in many cases. They just guarantee a blastocyst. So
Right.
if you get one or two blastocysts, you do PGT testing, and the embryos
Mhm.
come back with extra chromosomes and not enough chromosomes, the egg bank will not replace those eggs because they fulfill their guarantee of at least a blastocyst, not a normal euploid blastocyst. So they have to be watch out for that.
Right, yeah, that's true. That is also another factor for parents to consider.
Yes, definitely. But frozen eggs are the way we freeze frozen eggs now. We use what's called vitrification,
Mhm.
and first of all, fertility is a reverse pyramid. We always start off with a lot, and you end up with just a few. So
That's
even if
right.
you have six or eight frozen eggs, not all of them will survive the thawing process. And then you have to
Mhm,
see how
mhm,
many fertilize and how many fertilize, how many become blastocysts, and then if you do PGT to see how many of those will become normal euploid embryos. So
mhm.
the other advantage of frozen eggs is that some couples are uncomfortable with making decisions on extra embryos that are left over. So if you're someone that says, you know what, I don't know what to do with my extra frozen embryos, frozen may be the way to go because with a fresh
Right.
cycle, you're
Mhm.
guaranteed to get an excess number of blastocysts to use and some left over for the future. And
Right.
sometimes a couple will say, "All right, I just want two children, three children," and they still have about four embryos left over, and I have a
Mhm.
dilemma: what should they do with those embryos? So, a lot of things to think about. Overall, success rates are the same, but then the most important is how do you want to build your family, and then after you decide
Mhm.
how you want to build your family, then decide upon fresh versus frozen.
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you. So the next question is also about egg donation is that is a little difficult to answer, but a lot of parents, if not every single parent, asks this question. Parents will always wonder if I go with a fresh donor, how many eggs can I expect from one donation cycle? No one can really predict it, but like, how do you tell parents when they ask this question?
You can never predict. You have to rely upon the screening of the egg donor. So before we accept the egg donor, we do screening, and
Mm-hmm.
the two things that we really want to focus on. Number one
Mm-hmm.
is something called the anti-Müllerian hormone, or AMH, and this is a
Mm-hmm.
blood test that we do in all egg donors, and it gives us an idea of how she's going to respond to the medication, so we kind of predict how many eggs she's going to produce. So if
Mm-hmm.
someone's AMH level is on the lower side, they are not going to be a big egg producer.
Mm-hmm.
Someone's AMH level is say 3 or 4, which is extremely normal, then you're looking at
Mm-hmm.
somebody may have 20, 25, 30 eggs. But rule
Right.
of thumb for a good donation cycle, you're looking at maybe 15 to 20 eggs to work with.
Mhm, mhm,
But as far as choosing a donor, if you say, I'm looking for a donor who's going to give me tons of eggs, then we want to look at her AMH level and also something called an antral follicle count, which is a baseline ultrasound when she gets her period. And we can
mhm.
kind of count how many resting eggs are in each ovary and get
Right.
a prediction of how many eggs she's going to produce.
I see. Got it. Well, that is very helpful information as well. So, intended parents out there, when you're looking for a fresh egg donor, obviously, you are probably focusing on the looks and, genetics of the donor because the donor will be genetically related to your future baby. But, like Dr. T said, there are some medical factors for you to consider as well, especially if you want to know how many eggs you can expect from a fresh donation cycle. But,
Yeah, and
yeah, sorry, go ahead.
the biggest thing to remember is that it's quality, not quantity. Because sometimes if you get too many eggs, you may compromise the quality and you put the donor at risk
Mm,
for something called ovarian hyperstimulation. So
right.
we try not to get the donor to make too many eggs. So
Yeah.
we want to make sure that we get good quality eggs. And rule of thumb, like I said before, is about 15 to 20 is a good
Mm-hmm,
cycle
mm-hmm.
for egg donor.
I see. Yep, absolutely. The quality of the eggs and sperm directly determine the quality of the embryos, right? And which impacts the success rates of embryo transfer. So,
Yeah, definitely. And the rule of thumb for fertility specialists is always better to have a good egg, because a good egg can always overcome poor quality sperm,
I
but not
see.
vice versa. It doesn't work. If you have the best sperm in the world, the egg is not as healthy, then typically you don't get a good quality embryo. So the egg is the most important
Interesting.
factor. Yeah.
Wow, wow. Precious eggs.
They're very precious. So
I
that's
know,
why we
right?
try to retrieve every follicle that we see because they're very valuable. And the other thing that
Yes.
kind of comes up is that people ask this question, well, why do you do ICSI? And ICSI stands for
Mm-hmm,
intracytoplasmic sperm injection, where we take one
mm-hmm,
healthy sperm and we inject that directly into the egg. So a lot of people
mm-hmm,
say, well, why don't you just let nature take its course and let fertilization occur naturally? Well, once again, these eggs are very valuable, and fertilization
mm-hmm,
rates with what we call conventional or natural insemination is about maybe 60%.
mm-hmm,
Whereas with the ICSI, you're looking at about 80 to 90% fertilization rates.
mm,
So just by doing natural selection with the sperm and the egg, you're going to end up with less embryos to work with compared to doing the
right.
ICSI, get more eggs that are fertilized, result in more embryos. So
Mm-hmm.
the egg quality is really, really important, but also, the technique that we use to get the egg to fertilize can also help you maximize the number of embryos you get.
Right. I am so grateful for the modern technology that is just I think it's just so helpful in so many ways to help these intended parents have the best chance of success.
Oh, my technology is amazing.
You know,
I mean,
right?
I know it looks like with the gray hair that I've been doing this for 100 years, but when I first started doing IVF,
Mm-hmm.
we basically would put the eggs and the sperm back into the fallopian tube because we didn't know how to get them to fertilize. But then we
Wow.
figured out how to get them to fertilize in the laboratory, but then we didn't know how to get them to grow, so we would put them back right away. And back then, we would put back sometimes 3 or 4 embryos, sometimes up to six. But
Wow.
technology progressed to where we're using blastocysts. We can identify the best quality embryo,
Yep.
reduce the number of embryos that we transfer, and then test the embryos to make sure the chromosomes are normal. And that's why you
Yep.
see a lot of recommendations, particularly if you're working with a surrogate and using
Mm-hmm.
an egg donor. The recommendation is to transfer one embryo. And by
Mm-hmm.
transferring
Mm-hmm.
that one embryo, it gives you the same success rates if you were to put in more than one embryo, but it
Mm-hmm.
reduces your risk of twins down to about 1 to 2% because an embryo can split and get identical twins. But if you put in two, it doesn't improve your pregnancy rate. It just increases your twin rate to about 40%, not 100%, because some people do want twins.
Yep.
And
Yep.
a lot of clinics nowadays refuse to put back two embryos because it's safer for the surrogate to put back one.
Mm-hmm.
But even if you put back two, the twin rate is about maybe 40 to 50%.
I see. Wow. I truly, truly look forward to seeing what is to come with the newer technology in the next 5 to 10 years. I really do think there will be a lot of new um, breakthroughs in the next 5 to 10 years.
I'm
See.
hoping so. I know so. But we come a long way. I know it for all you intended parents out there. I know it's frustrating
Mhm.
because you're thinking, well, I'm doing the most advanced technology for fertility. I'm putting the eggs and sperm together, making embryos. I'm testing the embryos. My success rate should be 100%. But unfortunately, the thing that we don't understand, which hopefully in the next 10, 15 years, that'll be the breakthrough, is what makes
Mhm.
an embryo implant. That we
Mm.
don't understand right now. We know how to create an embryo, look at the embryo,
Mhm.
we grade the embryo, We can see if it's a boy or girl. We can see if it has the
Right.
right chromosome numbers, but we just don't know what's the mechanism that's going to make it an implant.
I see. Wow. Wow. Yeah, that's fingers crossed we get that figured out soon.
Yeah, that's going to be the Nobel Prize. So whoever figures that out there, you're going to be a Nobel Prize winner, and
Wow.
you'll be able to help everyone get pregnant when they want to get pregnant, and it's going
Mhm.
to be amazing times. And then I could take more vacation at that point in time. If I put an embryo in, I
Yes.
say, oh yeah, I see you when you're 10 weeks pregnant, right?
Yes, absolutely. I know, like, working in the third party reproduction field, like doesn't matter if you're a doctor, like, an attorney, or us as the surrogacy agency, we all share the same goal, which is to help intended parents become actual parents. Like, like I always tell parents, sometimes in your journey, there may be some hiccups, there may be some ups and downs, and, we completely understand the frustration or the anxiety you're experiencing. Just know that all the experts behind you are here to support you, and we all share the same goal, which is to help you, um, you know, become a parent.
Exactly. There's so much that goes on behind the scenes with all the professionals.
Hmm.
It takes many of us professionals to make it happen. And one of the things I always tell intended parents is that enjoy the journey
Yeah.
and don't get frustrated because not every
Mhm.
journey is straightforward. Some of them have bumps and things like that. But the majority of you who start your journey will end up with your baby at the end of the journey.
Yes, absolutely. That is so true. Okay, so far we've talked about egg donation. Surrogacy is obviously a big portion as well. We receive a lot of questions from intended parents about like surrogates, who are ideal candidates. So a lot of parents will just ask, how do I know my surrogate is a good candidate? Like, from the agency's perspective, before we share any surrogate profiles with the intended parents, we'll have completed the pre-screening of the surrogates already, which includes hours and hours and hours of education with the surrogate to make sure she understands her responsibilities and rights, as well as the big commitment she's about to make. And we'll also complete the surrogate as well as her partner, if she has one, their psychological evaluation and a background check on anyone who's over the age of 18 in her household, and we'll collect her medical records and have them reviewed by a medical professional, and we'll make sure we have a medical clearance letter from her OB, as well as an insurance review on her, on her own insurance policy. But from the clinic's perspective, what are the medical requirements a surrogate must meet? Can you elaborate on that with our intended parents?
Yeah, so the a lot of requirements and the key thing is every clinic is different on the
Hmm.
requirements.
Hmm.
So check with your doctor that you're working with to see what are their requirements for their specific surrogacy program.
Hmm.
But the main key is that in order to be a surrogate, you have to have at least one healthy delivery. It could be a vaginal delivery, natural, or it could be a cesarean section.
Hmm.
You look at that delivery and that pregnancy and to make sure there was no complications. Because the biggest thing that we as medical professionals, what we're looking for to make sure this is going to be a safe journey for the surrogate. Because remember, the surrogate
Hmm.
has a family. So we're going to make
Right.
sure that after she delivers your baby, she's going to be healthy and go home to her family. So that's the key thing
Yep.
for us to make sure it's going to be safe for her. But there are a lot of
Hmm.
different criteria that we look at. But number one, she's had a healthy pregnancy. If she's had C-sections, every clinic is different, but sometimes if she's had 4 C-sections, some clinic will say that's too many, sometimes 3 C-sections. But the key is that the pregnancies themselves were uncomplicated. Sometimes you may see a little bit of high blood pressure in the pregnancy, but didn't really affect the overall pregnancy, then she's still a good candidate.
Hmm.
But the key thing we're looking medically, a lot of different criteria, but it's designed to make sure it's going to be a safe journey for the surrogate and give everybody the best outcome for the intended parents and the surrogate.
I see. Got it. Well, thank you for sharing your, medical insights, and I'm sure it's helpful for parents to hear. What about, experienced surrogates versus first-time surrogates? Some parents, some parents would be like, "Oh, is it better to work with an experienced surrogate because, she's done this before. I feel better about it." But, again, medically speaking, does it make a difference in terms of success rates?
So I get asked that question a lot, and I will always say, remember that every surrogate, if it's her first time, she was a surrogate before because she went through a pregnancy and she delivered the baby, right?
Yep,
So
yep.
there's no such thing as a first time surrogate because it's not her first time carrying the baby.
Mm-hmm.
When you look at someone, what we say is a proven surrogate, which means she's gone through the process, she's taken the medications, and she's had a successful journey, compared to someone's doing this for the first time, success rates are going to be the same, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, let me take you behind the scenes, right? Behind the scenes, even though success rates are the same, if you do have that surrogate who's done this before, as a physician, it gives you a little bit more peace of mind that how does she respond to the medications? How thick
Mm-hmm.
was her lining? So it kind of gives you a roadmap to how to be successful again with this surrogate. But overall, first time surrogates, proven surrogates, success rates are the same. The key is going to be what is the quality of the embryo? Okay, because the
Mm-hmm.
surrogate uterus will always be receptive to a good quality embryo.
Right.
And even in some cases where you transfer a good quality embryo, it may take the first transfer or the second transfer, but usually by the third transfer, pretty much all surrogates are pregnant.
Mm-hmm.
First time surrogates are proven surrogates. So I think it gives a lot of intended parents some peace of mind, knowing the surrogate's done this before. But as far as physicians go, we look at a first time surrogate as it's just the same as a proven surrogate.
I see. Got it. Well, thank you for confirming that for us as well. And what about, okay, so let's talk about intended parents then. So for LGBTQ plus intended parents, sometimes we get questions, say a parent is HIV positive, and can I still move forward with surrogacy? As a doctor, do you have further information to share with them? And also, if so, are there any precautions I could take?
So we've come a long way with HIV treatment, and
Mhm,
I was at Columbia University for many years as the medical director
mhm,
there. And we were the first program in the United States to work with HIV discordant couples.
right.
And our initial research showed that by doing the IVF process and injecting one sperm directly into the egg, there was
Mhm,
no transmission of HIV to the recipient mother or the surrogate. And that was important because it was the first time anyone ever said, hey, can we help these HIV discordant couples have families? And back
right.
in the day when we did this in the late 90s, early 2000s, viral loads were very high, CD counts were very
Mm,
high, all the numbers, there was no criteria that we excluded some with. And the key thing was that the sperm wash, because
mhm,
the viruses and all your bacteria and white blood cells, they're found in the semen. So when a gentleman, male ejaculates, there's semen, but when you're doing the IVF process, you wash away the semen, so you're only left with the sperm. And
okay,
by just washing the sperm, it reduces or makes it undetectable or no chance of transmission of the HIV to any recipient mother or any gestational carrier. So we've
right.
come a long way now with the antiretroviral medications to where,
Mhm,
when couples come in now who have HIV, their viral load is negative. So now you
mhm,
start for a place of negative viral load. You're still washing the sperm. You do it with sperm, a double sperm wash with a gradient to make sure there's no virus. And then you're doing the ICSI, and it's very safe. So
I
um,
see.
even even in women who are undergoing HIV positive, undergoing inseminations, is not an issue at all.
Mhm, okay,
It went all the way to the point where in the beginning there was an HIV discordant couple where they had to do IVF. Then in Europe they were doing inseminations. And to now with things like Truvada and things of that nature, we just
right.
tell discordant couples that are straight couples that just get pregnant
Mhm.
naturally by taking the Truvada. So we come a long way with HIV treatment.
Yeah, absolutely. That is wonderful. And for all the intended parents out there, if you are HIV positive, do not lose your hope because you can still have a family through surrogacy and egg donation. Just like Dr. T said, it's safe for the surrogate, and thanks to our modern technology, what a wonderful thing.
Yeah, and the wonderful thing about it is that a lot of surrogates are well versed and they know the data, and so they're very
Mhm.
comfortable in working with couples who are HIV discordant. So You do not be discouraged. Talk to your fertility doctor. The key thing is the sperm wash, and every IVF cycle is done with the sperm wash. So your sperm will be treated and washed and free of HIV virus.
Right. Okay. Sounds great. Okay. So the next question is about selecting fertility clinics. Usually parents, when a parent is looking for a fertility clinic to work with, sometimes they would just work with a clinic that's close to them, so it's convenient. Some parents are specifically looking at the success rates, or they're looking for specific doctors or teams, and I would say, like, on top of that, are there any specific factors you would recommend for LGBTQ plus intended parents to consider when they're looking for a clinic? Maybe the clinic's experience working with LGBTQ plus intended parents?
Yeah, that's the key. You have to
Mm-hmm.
find a clinic and a doctor who's comfortable with the LGBTQ community,
Mm-hmm.
understanding the needs of these individuals, and help them build the family where they want. Um,
Right.
and then the other thing is that you're going to be working as a third party where we're using donor sperm, donor eggs, and surrogates. You want to find a clinic that specializes in that type of treatment, and not every IVF clinic specializes in third party treatment. There are a lot of centers
Mm-hmm.
that do really, really well with IVF, but when it comes to working with donor eggs, donor sperm, and surrogates, everything falls to the cracks because now there's a lot of regulations that get involved with the FDA. You have to make
Yep.
sure your contracts are done. Everybody has to be lined up. There's a lot of communications because most surrogates are not going to be local to your clinic. Most egg
Mm-hmm.
donors may not be local to your clinic. So a lot of coordination goes on with the clinic and the donors and surrogates. So the key thing is finding a clinic that's experienced in third party reproduction, particularly
Mm-hmm.
egg donors, sperm donors, and surrogates. But
Mm-hmm.
then once you do find those clinics, I would tell you not to look at success rates so much because everybody talks about SART data, but SART data is so confusing, I can't even understand it. So,
It
and
is very hard to navigate.
but everybody say, oh, what's the SART data? But the SART data doesn't tell you if you're working with a surrogate, doesn't tell you what your success rate is going to be. If you're working with sperm donors, you're doing inseminations, doesn't say how successful you're going to be with sperm donation and insemination. So the key
Mm-hmm.
thing is to being comfortable with your clinic, an experienced third party clinic, and then being comfortable with your physician and their team. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
and that'll be the best way to make the decision which clinic to work with.
Great. Thank you so much for your advice. Okay, so let's assume the eggs and sperm are both high quality, so the embryos are high quality. What is the average success rate for each embryo transfer?
All right, great. So let me explain high quality first of all, because everybody's
Yes,
perspective of
please.
high quality is completely different.
Mm-hmm.
So a little science, but I won't bore you. So in order for an embryo to implant, it has become a blastocyst. And a blastocyst is an embryo that has over 100 cells and is divided into two parts. The part that becomes the actual baby called the inner cell mass, and then the outer
Mm-hmm.
part that becomes the placenta. So
Mm-hmm.
every IVF clinic, the embryologist, they will grade your embryos. And we really did a bad job 30 years ago because we started grading things A, B, and C. So anytime you
Mm,
grade something A, B, C, people go back to when they were in school. Oh my God, my
right.
embryo is a B grade. It must not be
Yep.
healthy.
Yep.
But don't think like that. We grade these embryos based upon it's a subjective. The embryologist looking
Mhm.
underneath the microscope. And in many
Okay.
cases, when an embryologist grades it as an A grade and they send it for testing for PGT, the PGT could be abnormal. So it tells you that the grading is not the most important thing. And then
Mm-hmm.
you have to
I
get into
see.
the factor that everybody wants an A grade embryo because they think that's the best, but the majority of babies in this country and around the world are from B grade embryos. Now you probably say, well, that doesn't make any sense. Well, the reason why is because remember when you were in school and you had that professor, you wrote the best term paper of your life, and you said, I knew this was a worthy of an A, and you got a B
Mm-hmm.
plus. Well,
Mm-hmm.
most embryologists are just like that professor. They never give out A's. If they do give out A's, it's very few. So the majority of
Mm-hmm.
the embryos that you will see are going to be B grade embryos. So don't be disappointed, discouraged if you get a report and says, "Oh, my embryo is a B grade." Most people's embryos are B grade, and you have success. Now,
I see.
that's your science lesson, okay?
Yes, please. That
So
was very
now,
helping. Something I
so
didn't
now,
learn in school.
yeah, well, I love doing this because I have little videos for people that, because a lot of people, number one, when guys come to the clinic and they're freezing their sperm or doing a semen analysis, first thing I do is say, let's go to the laboratory and take a look at your sperm. And
Hmm.
it made their eyes go, oh my God, because they hear about sperm, but they never see it. So like when they see their sperm, they're, oh my, I never see so many. I know they move like that. So
Right.
I love telling everybody how this works because I love what I do, first of all. But now we got this high quality embryo, right? And if we're
Hmm.
transferring that embryo to a surrogate, you're looking at very high success rates. Now, very high success rates in the world of IVF is not what people think. People think 100%. Remember, put that embryo in high quality, 100% my surrogate will get pregnant. But realistic, with a good egg, a good sperm, and a good healthy quality embryo, you're looking at about 75, 85% chance of success with the first transfer. And
Hmm.
if unfortunately the first transfer is not successful, the success rates don't go down, they actually go up. But most
Mm,
surrogates are pregnant with the first or second transfer if the embryo quality is very good.
I see. Well, that's great, for parents to hear because that is that just I think if I were an intended parent, that would certainly give me hope, knowing that the success rates are pretty high and pretty advanced. Sorry, I didn't do a good job right here. I'll just tell them to edit this part out. This is a
No
recording, it's
worries,
not
no
live.
worries.
I just
I
tell them
didn't
to
even
edit this.
notice it, so you're good.
Okay, next question. Hi. Well, thank you for sharing that as well, Dr. T. So now we have the embryos. We know the success rates. Let's talk about the journey. So again, we hope every intended parent has a smooth journey, but the reality is there will likely be some kind of hiccups during this process because there's so many parties involved in this and there's so many pieces to put together. What are some of the common, hiccups that intended parents can expect and prepare themselves for in advance?
Yeah, I mean that's it. That's to say, the journey. Enjoy the journey. Up bumps and always a bump in every journey. Some of the
Mhm.
bumps you see right away. So a lot of times couples make their minds up. Hey, you know what? We're ready to start a family. We want to work with an egg donor and we want to work with the surrogate. The first step in every journey is to do a sperm analysis. This to make sure you have enough sperm that can be successful in the journey. And you want to do this early on because if the sperm count is low, which you can see in 40% of men who are not even trying to get pregnant, it gives you enough time to see a urologist to see if there's something that you can do to improve the sperm count. So now you get a better sperm count for your journey. Some of the things are pretty basic. I see a lot of guys come in and they're not like, they don't want to get like me and have no hair. So they're taking things like Propecia and all these hair products. And these hair products that you may take to get a nice full set of hair actually does affect the sperm. So look at the medications that you're taking before you start your journey. Talk to your physician who's prescribing that medication if you're taking any to see if it does affect sperm. Get that
Mhm.
sperm analysis, and then if the sperm analysis is normal, now you're going to improve the quality of the sperm. The way we improve quality of sperm is by taking a good multivitamin. Anything contains zinc, selenium, vitamin E,
Okay.
vitamin C.
Okay.
And fish oil is a good way to keep the quality of the sperm very high.
Ah.
Other things that can happen. I mean, everything can happen from A to Z in a journey, but just be prepared. But always rely upon your clinic and your team to kind of guide you through, and do not get discouraged. You can have the perfect egg donor and everything looks great. Their screening is wonderful. And then at the last minute, she said, I changed my mind, or my dates on the line will be where before. So you get a delay in the journey, but that doesn't mean your journey is going to end. This means, okay, there's a roadblock and we're going to
Mhm.
overcome this roadblock. Same with the surrogate. The biggest thing that I see as far as frustration for intended parents working with a surrogate is that everyone's excited. You finish your contract. She's starting her medication. She goes for a lining check, and her lining is not quite where we like to see it. So sometimes it takes a little bit longer, amount more medication for the line to get there, but the line eventually does get to where it needs to be for the transfer.
I
So,
see.
all these are minor roadblocks, but when you're going through the journey and they seem like they're major, but
Mhm.
they're all minor and they can all can be overcome. Sometimes it takes a little bit longer than what we anticipated.
Yeah, absolutely. And I truly love how you like, you tell intended parents to enjoy the journey. And it is so true. I think, I have heard this from a lot of intended parents and who, after having baby, like, chat and be like, it now looking back, it was just a precious experience for us because, not everyone gets to experience this when you're in the middle of the process. You do think, sometimes you do find it frustrating and you'd be like, oh, I just want to have my baby and why, are all these things happening? You just want to get to the end. But then once you get to the end goal, you look back, that is my journey to becoming a parent, and that is a good story I will be able to tell my child one day.
Right?
So, that is absolutely true how you tell them to enjoy the journey. It is very important to enjoy the moment while you're in it.
Yeah, I mean, it may seem like it's frustrating and a lot of stress, but when you
Mhm.
look back on it, you realize how beautiful it was.
Right? Yeah, and I like sometimes I tell them it's like raising a child. Sometimes there will be frustrations or when your child becomes a teenager, it's probably going to get really rough. But then once they become an adult and moves out of your house, you start to miss those times, right?
Trust me, those teenage years, they do get rough, but they are, they lose their minds for a few years, but then they all come back to normal. So
Yes, absolutely, absolutely.
those are also precious times when they're losing their mind as a teenager, right?
Exactly. That is true, like you only get to experience that with that specific child once. Once they're old enough, they move out of your house, you can't have that time back anymore.
You can't. I'll give you this little quick aside. I was out to dinner the other day, and there's a couple, and the baby's probably maybe like 18 months or so. Just find his way walking, and the baby like was walking around and came over to our table, and the parents, oh my God, I'm so sorry. I said, don't be sorry, because one day you're gonna wish this day was happening all over again. Because when they grow up, you're gonna say, I wish you were that age again. So always
Absolutely.
enjoy it. Always enjoy
Uh,
it.
Thank you for sharing that cute story. That is lovely to hear. Okay, so yeah, we unfortunately will have to come to the end of our webinar or podcast today. But before you go, I do have another question for you.
All
Any
right.
advice you have for LGBTQ plus couples and individuals out there who are interested in becoming a parent via surrogacy and egg donation?
One more time. I didn't hear the beginning of the question. I'm sorry.
Your advice, just your
Oh,
advice for, yeah, your advice for the LGBTQ plus intended parents out there.
yeah. My advice is, like I said before, enjoy it. You have
Mhm.
it's an amazing time because you have control over how you want your family. All right. You may want one child, you want two children, you want four, you may want four like I have, which is the best thing in the world. I tell you, I have at least four kids, right? You may want twins. You may not want twins. If you're working with an egg donor, sperm donor, you want to find the one that best fits what you're looking for, and look beyond the physical characteristics. Look at the person inside. Say, is this the kind of person that I would want to be the biological mother of my child, or the biological sperm father of my child? Look
Right.
beyond the basics and enjoy everything and ask questions, as many questions. And there's no such thing as a silly question, or maybe I shouldn't ask that questions. Always ask questions because they give you insight on everything you're going through.
I see. Well, thank you. Thank you so much, Dr. T, for joining us today, for sharing your knowledge and your experience with us and your advice as well. And I am sure intended parents out there are extremely appreciative of, what you've shared with us today. And thanks again for joining us. And thank you, everyone, for listening and watching us today. I hope you find it helpful. And if you do have any questions about surrogacy or egg donation, please feel free to reach out to us, Family Source Consultants, or Global Fertility and Genetics. And Dr. T is extremely experienced and so willing to help everyone who's in need. And thank you again, Dr. T. We'll see you next
My
time.
pleasure. And good luck to
Okay.
everyone out there.
Yes. Thank you.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.